Last summer, Staten Island native CJ broke through into the mainstream rap scene in a big way. His hit track Whoopty became one of the most popular songs of the year and caught almost all of us by surprise when it landed on the Billboard's Hot 100, where it continued its upward ascent ever since, currently climbing as high as the number 10 spot. But Whoopty was more than just a catchy song that helped a whole bunch of us get through those initial dark days under lockdown. It also made its writer and creator CJ a whole bunch of money. If the internet is to be believed, then CJ, a man who had absolutely zero hit songs before this one, is now sitting pretty with a net worth in the $1 million range. Success like that has finally afforded CJ to live a lifestyle the likes of which he and his crew always knew he would one day acquire. His own manager, James Cruz, a longtime music executive, has known CJ for the kid's entire life, and he had this to say about the young man to Billboard. CJ became the Kobe of this game, in my opinion, because he was raised from little to be a superstar. The moment he knew how to talk, he knew how to walk, CJ had a vibe. From a little child, he always knew there was something special. Well, that might be a bit of hyperbole, especially that Kobe comment. CJ is, without a doubt, having the time of his life these days, whether it's driving around in the nicest of whips, decking himself out in the most fashionable of clothing lines head to toe, inking his body with new tats, or draping the finest of ice around his neck. CJ is fitting right into the hip-hop lifestyle without skipping a beat. Considering the man is still starting out, he hasn't exactly diversified his business portfolio yet, but a quick perusal of his Instagram account gives us an idea that behind his music and a lucrative new deal that he just signed with Warner Records, my man is also cashing in on those endorsement deals that bring him an extra buck or two on the side with fashion houses like Karl Kani. But whether he's making money or spending money, these days CJ always manages to become the center of attention. Hey, what's poppin' guys, your boy Marlon Palmer back at it again with a brand new video. This one into the rich life of Whoopty rapper CJ. Now I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but with Tekashi 6ix9ine's recent decline in visibility, CJ seems to have taken up the mantle of everyone's favorite love him or hate him new artist. Personally, I think his music is dope. It fits right in with this new New York drill movement we've been seeing develop, and his new song Bop is exactly that, a bop. So today I thought I'd give you all a taste of the type of lifestyle this dude is living these days with a deep dive into his bank account. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ThatDudeBeenFly to let me know who else you'd like to see on this series, and let's get into the story. We're gonna kick things off with one of the most recent developments in CJ's life, his biggest payday, which at this early point in his career is his signing to Warner Records that took place at the tail end of 2020. After the phenomenal success of Whoopty, CJ and his closest associates, like his manager James Cruz, took appointments with labels of all sorts. As CJ told Billboard, a lot of labels were at the door knocking. Ultimately, CJ decided that Warner Records would be the best situation for him and his career. He told Billboard, "I just felt blessed at the moment, you know? It was just the start of a new chapter. Comes with a lot of work, but I was ready for it. It was a blessed feeling." Soon after signing to Warner Records to act as his label, CJ also signed a record deal with Warner Chappell to keep his label and publishing partners under the same roof. At the time of this recording, no hard numbers have emerged in terms of how much CJ is making off of this deal, but when it comes to signing with the label, the artist usually receives type of advance up front, anywhere from a few $100,000 to $1 million or so. And CJ is undeniably big right now, but without a sustained track record of success, any advance he would have gotten up front is probably in the six-figure range. That being said, the overall deal could ultimately prove to be north of 7 figures, considering the type of metrics that Whoopty was generating. Generally, artists receive a royalty rate of about 15% of revenue generated, so the rest of CJ's money will be tied to how his music performs from here on out. Speaking of his music, let's dive a little deeper into it now. As a kid, CJ was a giant fan of rap, as you might have already guessed. He started rapping at the age of 16, and by 19, he was recording his own songs and uploading them to streaming platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud. In fact, one of his very first songs was a feature appearance on Tekashi 6ix9ine's Pop, which dropped in March of 2018, and after that track went absolutely nowhere, he took some time off and bided his time a little bit. CJ next popped up in June of 2019 with his song titled Understood, but much like with his other early work, this song failed to gain any traction. You might even say that it was misunderstood. Okay, I was gonna try and get that one off. I'm sorry. Still, CJ refused to give up. He worked out a deal for himself with EQ, otherwise known as Equity Distribution, an independent distribution company that is under the Roc Nation umbrella. Thanks to this deal, CJ got to spend a little quality time with Jay-Z himself and bend his hair a little bit. Ultimately though, this deal never went anywhere and CJ was left without a career in music, and then the pandemic hit. While CJ was home under lockdown, he was itching to find his way back into a studio. As he was at home going through some beats on YouTube, he came across one for Whoopty and immediately started rocking out to it and reached out to an engineer he knew to book a studio session. After that, he went into the studio and came up with everything off the top of his head. I'm explaining all this to give you guys some context to the smash hit that Whoopty turned into. He dropped the track in June of 2020 with no label, no fanfare, and somehow still managed to find himself with a gigantic hit on his hands. Over 170 million views on YouTube and over 240 million streams on Spotify. The song was even named as the 13th best song of 2020 by the New York Times. Suddenly, this 23-year-old artist had a certified platinum hit on his hands. That means over 1 million copies of the singles were sold all across the world. If you want some hard numbers to go along with these types of streams, what I can tell you is that for every million or so streams on a site like Spotify, the artist generally makes around $3,500. So 240 times 3,500, you do the math. I'm kidding, I'll do it for you. That comes to about $840,000 from one streaming platform. Meanwhile, Apple pays double the amount that Spotify does. As you can imagine, we're talking some eye-popping numbers here. After signing with Warner, they released his track Whoopty probably so that they could get in on a cut of that streaming revenue, and CJ's forthcoming debut EP is set to be released sometime soon. CJ is hoping not only to keep the momentum going with further Brooklyn drill-style tracks, but he's also going to switch it up with some melodic, slowed-down temp beats on a project that's being executive produced by none other than French Montana. Before we check out some of CJ's most gaudy purchases, let's take a look at one last way the guy likes to make money: sponsored content. If you take a look at his Instagram page, you'll quickly come across a series of posts CJ showing off his nicest threads. But a number of them are sponsored posts, like this one for Karl Kani. An extremely popular hip-hop clothing line, Karl Kani has been around for a while now, but they hopped on the CJ bandwagon very early, dressing him up head to toe for this sponsored post in November of 2020. How much an artist is paid for content like this can vary widely, but considering that CJ is around 300,000 followers, he was probably making somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 for a post like this. And that's not the only brand he's worked with on his socials. He's also teamed up with Prada earlier this year to cash in once again. Alright, now let's jump into the fun stuff. How CJ is spending those Whoopty bucks. A self-proclaimed car enthusiast, CJ is no stranger to being seen with some extremely nice whips. Like, just look at his very first Instagram post. That's CJ posing with a BMW i8, one of the coolest looking cars that BMW makes if you ask me. This $150,000 vehicle has 369 horsepower and can go from 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds, ensuring that it can get CJ where he needs to go almost as quickly as his own hit song did. Next up is another Beamer and part of the 4 Series collection. Since its launch in 2013, the 4 Series has combined remarkable aesthetic with sports dynamics, including a 6-cylinder M twin power turbo engine that can get up to 60 miles per hour in just 5.3 seconds. So while this whip isn't quite as powerful as his i8 with its 4 doors and ample interior space, it's a little bit more practical when you're cruising around town with your crew. Another expense that CJ throws down for? Tattoos, tattoos, and more tattoos. CJ doesn't exactly have his entire body covered in ink yet, but I'd say he's got at least 50% of what's visible, telling some type of story, like the giant 1997 he has across his abdominal region in recognition of the year he was born. For an ink job that's taking up that much space, he probably threw down at least $500 for it. He's also got different designs on each of his pectoral muscles. On the left side is what appears to be an image of a dog, probably a boxer and maybe a childhood pet, though considering how angry it looks, I kinda hope that wasn't his childhood pet. And that's paired up with a prayer hands design made famous by Drake a few years ago. Taken together, CJ probably dropped somewhere around $1,000 on those bad boys. On those days when CJ feels like covering himself up before going outside, he likes to dress for success and stick to the one brand aesthetic, like this stylish Dior outfit that he appears to have literally walked out of the store wearing. Taken as a combined outfit, this white sweatshirt, high top sneaker, and slim jeans look probably set CJ back a total of about $5,000. But when you look this fly coming out the store, it's almost immediately worth it, am I right? And just so you don't think that CJ is never practical when it comes to his wardrobe selection, he does occasionally shop in more down-to-earth locations like this jogger suit that he picked up from About the Money Clothing that set him back around $100 tops. I was able to find a pretty similar style suit on their website going for $85, but it isn't exactly the same as the one CJ was wearing in those photos. Honestly, once people see an artist in these looks, they probably sell out pretty quickly. As you've probably already noticed from a ton of these pictures, whether he's dressed to the nines or showing off his body tats, CJ is also always wearing some ice around his neck. whether it's his own initials or his Hansa-style diamond and gold chain. CJ doesn't leave home without draping a few $1,000s worth of jewelry around himself. He's also been repping a French Montana Coke Boys chain since December, but that one he didn't have to pay for. It was a gift from Montana to welcome him into the Warner family. Beyond his style and whip, CJ has stated in interviews that people might be surprised to discover he's a heavy gamer, though for the most part he sticks to sports titles like 2K, Madden, UFC, and MLB. All of those expenses might not exactly place CJ on the level of high rollers in the music industry, but let's not forget that my man is just starting out. Give him a little bit of time and these spending tendencies are just going to skyrocket. It happens every time. I think we're gonna take this episode to an end here. What did you guys think of the rich life of CJ? If I'm being totally honest with you, right now CJ is more on the road to the rich life than 100% living it, but I think we can all agree he's well on his way. Don't forget to follow the series on Instagram and Before They're Famous to have your voice heard on what's next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.